Hello everyone, photographer Ronix from Onyx Photography, and in this tutorial today I'm going to be teaching you guys about how to retouch your images or how to do your skin retouching for your images in Photoshop using frequency separation. Unlike my usual videos or tutorials that I've been uploading on this channel, in this tutorial I'm going to be giving you guys a free download link to the frequency separation action that I'm going to be using for this very image. So basically, frequency separation is a skin retouching technique that divides the images and enables us to work on the image into two layers, that is the skin tones and the textures separately, so that when you combine the two layers you're going to be having the image the way it is meant to be. And for those who would like to learn about the in-depth frequency separation retouching tutorial, I'm going to put the link right above here so that you can follow along and learn about every single detail and how you can create your frequency separation actions for yourself, and learning about the in-depth skin retouching for all your images. So like I said, I'm using an older version of Photoshop 2017. I just find it user friendly. Then in order to install your windows into your Photoshop or import them into your Photoshop, just come right here to window and look for actions. So when you click actions, this is going to open. Then come and click right here. I don't know what it shows for newer versions. So when you click here, look for load actions. When you click load actions, it is going to take you where your action was stored when it was downloaded. And when you open that folder and click on it, just come and click load. So you'll have your action right in the actions panel. So this is my frequency separation action. So I'm going to click and play it. So click continue. Now for this very step, this is whereby you determine the amount of textures you want to remain in your image. So I'm going to zoom out and look for the area that seems to have more skin textures than the rest of the face. So I'm going to slide this. Remember, for the low frequency, it contains the colors or skin tones. So we want to remove the textures from the low frequency layer. That's why it is selected automatically in the frequency separation action. So come and start moving the radius slider until you lose out all of the textures and remain with the colors and the skin tones. So we are going to slide this until I think 8 is okay. You can just move around and see if at all you can no longer notice the skin textures. So come and click OK, and action will automatically enable you to continue. So we are done creating the frequency separation. Like I said, there shouldn't be a difference between the initial image and your frequency separation group, like that. So we are going to click this drop down icon and select the high frequency layer, and as usual come to the adjustments and create a black and white adjustment layer. The reason for doing this, we are going to get the mixer brush tool, and we are going to first of all blend the unevenness in the skin tone so that we can harmonize and have smooth skin tone transitions, like I'm going to show you guys using a mixer brush tool. So come to the red channel and drop it all the way down until you can see these patches or unevenness in the skin tone transitions. So close that and select your low frequency layer. Come under the brushes. You can right click and look for mixer brush tool, but mine is just out around here. So just right click, get your mixer brush tool. We are talking about the mixer brush tool, not your ordinary brushes. This is a mixer brush tool. So come right down here and make sure it is a clean brush, and make sure this right here is selected. The reason for selecting this is because we want the brush to clean itself automatically by Photoshop every time we are trying to mix or blend the unevenness in the skin tones. Make sure awareness is at around 9% or below 10, because I have tried and tested this, and the load is 75%, the mix is 90, and the flow 100. Make sure sample all layers is not marked or selected, because we only want to work on this low frequency layer that is containing our colors or the skin tones for this image. So you can zoom in and make sure when you're using a mixer brush tool, don't totally zoom all the way in, because you only want to retouch the image the way someone is going to be looking at it, and you don't want to mess it up. So make sure you mix the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows. So make sure you have selected the low frequency layer and just come and start blending like that. You can see, and make sure when you're doing your blending you don't over blend a particular area for a long time, because you're going to be doubling this wetness effect. So make sure you mix or blend the midtones alone, the highlights alone, and the shadows alone, and where they are transitioning, just blend it like that. I think this is fine. So we're going to check on our progress so far for just these few strokes of a brush. So turn off the black and white layer and see the progress. So this is the before and after. Before, after, you can see what we have just done with just a few strokes of a brush. So activate your black and white by clicking on the eye icon and continue blending. Make sure you have selected the low frequency, and you can increase or decrease on the brush size by using the left and the right brackets on your keyboard according to the areas you're trying to blend the skin tones at. So just blend like that, come to the chin, and you shouldn't worry if at all you miss out on particular areas, because I'm going to be sharing with you guys the other trick that is going to refine the image or portrait even more, and you have really defined skin textures and skin tones for this fair model. So let's do this quick. So you can see I'm mixing the midtones and the alone, the shadows alone, and the highlights alone, because I don't want to mess up anything or drag tones from another area and drag them to a way different area where they're not supposed to be. So basically it is what I'm trying to do by blending. So let's say a progress, turn this off. And the reason for creating this black and white layer is because we want to vividly see where the skin tones are not transitioning well. That's why we created it. So this is the before and after. Before, after, you can see just a few strokes of a brush and we all have that magic happening. So let's continue doing this for the image. I think this is fine and getting nicer and beautiful. So let's come right below to the chest area of the model. Let's zoom in somehow tighter like that, and also want to blend these areas. You can see what we are doing. We're just basically blending the skin tones, all the different variations in the skin tones, and making sure they are kind of being harmonized together like that. And as you're seeing, I'm not dragging from the highlight the shadows. I'm just trying to even out the skin tones using the mixer brush tool. And if at all you're finding this really helpful, this tutorial I mean, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe, because I really need your support, guys, because you motivate me to keep on creating more content for you guys at no cost. So basically that is going to be your reward for me. So enough of that, let's continue learning, because we are here to learn and not to just emphasize pointless issues. So we are just trying to blend the unevenness in the skin tones on our model skin. So basically that is what we are trying to do. So come to this other hand. I know most retouchers tend to leave out the hands or fingers and they only retouch the face, but remember it is a portrait and all these components make up the image, so you shouldn't forget or leave out those particular areas. I think this is fine, so let's turn this off and see. So this was the before and after. Before, after, you can see what we have just done with just our mixer brush tool. So we're going to delete the black and white layer by dragging it to the trash icon, and get our lasso tool. And in this method I'm going to be sharing with you guys, we're just going to kind of fine tune or refine the image even more. So let's zoom in like that, come to the face area, make sure lasso tool is selected and anti-alias is marked or checked, feathering 23 pixels because we want to get a refined selection, and make a selection only on the model's skin. So you should resist from selecting the eyebrows or other parts that are not the skin, because this is a skin retouching tutorial, not an eyebrow retouching tutorial basically. So we have selected the skin, so here you're going to be refining the image or the skin even more. So after you have selected your skin, come to filter, come to blur, and come to Gaussian blur. So when you come to Gaussian blur, remember this was the radius initially when we played our frequency separation action. So we are going to move this radius until we find a sweet spot for our skin texture in general. So at around 24 pixels we have the best skin texture for the model. So you can just come and click OK. But like I said, this is the trick I usually use. Remember we had the radius of 8. I've just typed that in. So I found out when you multiply 8 by 3 you get the best skin texture. So for whichever radius you may have used for your frequency separation group, when you're blurring out the textures on the low frequency layer, just multiply it by 3 and you'll get the best skin texture for your model. So 8 by 3 I'll get 24. So I think that is fine for me, and I'm going to apply that effect on the rest of the model's face. So that is what I wanted to share with you guys, the trick for refining the model's skin even more after using the mixer brush tool. So right click, apply the Gaussian blur. If at all you feel it is too much, just click Shift Ctrl F on the keyboard and you're going to reduce on the effect or the opacity of that very effect of the Gaussian blur. So let me make a selection and I show you what I'm trying to mean by that. So make a selection like that. So right click, click on Gaussian blur. So click Shift Ctrl F on the keyboard and reduce on the effect of that particular area if at all you feel it is too much. So that is what basically you do. So let me come to the nose bridge and continue applying our sweet Gaussian blur. I know most people tend to use only the Gaussian blur method, but I found out when you combine these two methods, you really come out with a powerful image at the end of your frequency separation process. That's why I prefer to combine the two frequency separation methods, because the first one kind of blends the skin tones and the lasso tool method refines the image even more. So you can come and also apply it on the chest area of the model, and if at all you feel it is too much for your liking, you can see I'm drawing the shapes according to the way light is falling on the image. So I feel that is too much, I'm going to reduce on the opacity. So come to the neck area and also apply it like that. Shift Ctrl F to reduce on the effect. I'll go with 45. So basically this is it. So this is the image before and after, before, after. So we're going to remove the pimples or blemishes for our model. Select your high frequency layer and get your clone stamp tool or whichever tool you prefer to use to remove the pimples or the blemishes from the model's skin. So I'm using the clone stamp tool because I want to automatically sample for myself the area I want to replace the blemish with. So in order to use the clone stamp tool, make sure it is opacity 100, flow 100, align is marked or selected, and current layer is selected, because we only want to work on the texture or high frequency layer because it contains most of the blemishes for the model. So hold down the alternate button and click on a clean area and paint over the blemish. So you hold down the alternate button, click on a clean area and paint over the blemish. So basically that is what I'm going to do for most of the blemishes in order to get rid of those blemishes on off the model's skin. So remember, blemish removal contributes over 70% to your overall skin retouching. That's why you really have to take your time. I may be rushing this because I don't want you guys to get bored with the whole tutorial and the whole blemish removal stuff, but I also won't forward anything because I want you guys to follow along everything I'm trying to do while I'm removing those tiny blemishes from the model's skin, and as well as refining the model's skin. So I'm just rushing through with the removal of the pimples or the blemishes from the model's skin. So let me do this. I think that is fine for that. So I'm going to reduce on the size by using the brackets on the keyboard, the left and right brackets, and I'm going to continue removing the pimples or acne or blemishes from the model's skin. So you really have to take your time while cleaning up the model's face or the model's skin, because people are going to judge you by your final work. So if at all you rush, you kind of do a rush while you're retouching, your results are going to be judged by your rush. So make sure you really take your time, and let me zoom in and clean up the model's forehead like that. So I'm just getting rid of tiny black spots on the model's forehead basically. So I think this is fine. So you can as well come, I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to clean up this particular part of the eyelashes. So I think this is fine. So far so good. So let's try to clean up the chest area of the model like that. We are basically just doing a cleanup or removing those tiny blemishes from our model's skin. So I think this is fine. So let's say before and after so far. So this is the image before, after, before, after, before, after. So we have done a perfect job. And now what we're going to do, we're going to be doing a little bit of first of all cleaning up the eyelashes. So I'm going to create a stamp visible layer for all we have done by clicking Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard to create a stamp visible layer, and get the spot healing brush tool and zoom into the eye area. Reduce on the size by using the left bracket on the keyboard, and I'm going to kind of just dab over these white things. I think it was makeup that dropped onto the extensions of the lashes. So basically this is what I'm trying to do while cleaning up these white parts of the eye. So let's see, that's the before and after, before, after. So basically I'm just trying to do a quick fix on the eyes of the model. So I think this is fine and beautiful. So what we are going to do right now, you can as well come and clean up the hair by removing those tiny things from the model's hair. So we're going to go to camera raw and we do some little bit of eye whitening. And before we can do that, let's first of all do some little bit of color grading. Come to selective color right here and come to the blacks or the black channel and drag the blacks all the way up, because I prefer to darken the blacks for my images, because when you pump up the highlights, it kind of removes the darks or the blacks from the image. So I'm going to go with 5 and come to the yellow channel, and I'm going to I want to add some kind of bluish kind of feel. I think that is fine. And now I'm going to come to the brightness and contrast and activate use legacy, and I'm going to pump it to around 2. I think this is fine for the color grading because I don't want to do too much. So I'm going to create another stamp visible layer by clicking Shift Alternate Control E on the keyboard and duplicating it by clicking Control or Command J on the keyboard. Come to filter and come to camera raw filter, and for the eye and teeth whitening we are going to be using the adjustment brush in Photoshop. So get your zoom tool and right click, hold down, left click, hold down and drag onto the eye area to zoom it in particular, and get your adjustment brush tool. I know for newer versions of Camera Raw it is always this side. All these options are on your right hand side, but anyway, you shouldn't get so confused by that. And now make sure your temperature is around -29 because we're removing the yellows from the eye area, and the tint is 71. The highlights are 2, the whites at 4, all the rest are at 0, like the exposure and everything. Remember, we are removing color from the white area of the eye. That's why the saturation is at -74. The reason for this being at -74 is because we don't want to totally take down the colors, because we are going to end up with robotic kind of eyes for the model. And the advantage of using the adjustment brush for your eye and teeth whitening is because you put these settings once. So every time you come to your adjustment brush, all these settings will be saved already, and you just have to come and just paint over like that on the white area of the eye. Remember, we are only painting over the white area or the catch light in the model's eye to brighten them up. Remember, we all have this corner and it is not white, so you shouldn't paint it. Just paint over on what you feel should have been white for the eyes of the model, like that. So zoom out and now come to the teeth, and we are also going to be doing a little bit of whitening on the model's teeth, like that. Increase and just paint over the white area of the teeth to brighten them a little bit. And as you're seeing, I'm painting an individual tooth at a time because I don't want to mess up maybe the lipstick of the model. So I think we are done with the eye and teeth whitening for this very model. So just come and click OK, like that. So you can see the before and the after. Let me zoom in. So that's the before and the after. Before, after. You have just whitened the eyes and teeth for the model. So you can see basically this was the image initially before and the after, before, after, before, after. And if at all you love this story, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. If at all you're watching from this channel for the very first time and you haven't subscribed, I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another retouching tutorial on this channel, and stay safe.